name is Hazel Millichamp and this is the Light on Leeds podcast. On this week's episode, I have Laura Beare come to speak to me. She works at Leeds University Library as the Marketing and Galleries Assistant Manager. We have a really good chat about the treasures of the Brotherton Gallery and the Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery, their history, what kind of things they've got going on, their digital content, how Laura got the library into TikTok, and lots of other interesting things, especially the story about the Cottingley Fairies. Have a listen. I think you'll really enjoy it. On this episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Laura Beare come to join me. Hello, Laura.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming along. And Laura, you are the Marketing and Galleries Assistant Manager at Leeds University Library. That's quite a mouthful.
It really is, yeah.
So how did you get into this kind of role?
So I've got a background in kind of museums and all things old stuff. So I did my undergrad, I did in history and English lit, and then I did a lot of volunteering at museums, realised that I loved talking to people about just cool stuff, essentially. I ended up doing a master's in museum studies and then just worked my way into kind of different museum jobs. And I realised that I liked the kind of engagement side of things, so the audience development and marketing, because I tried a bit of collections work, which is a lot of sitting on your own with collections. And actually what I like doing is talking about our collections and telling people why they should love it as much as I love it. So that's kind of how I found my way into this role.
And so now you're in the perfect role.
Exactly, yeah.
And when you were a child, were there particular museums you used to go and visit that you really loved?
Well, so I actually grew up in Aberdeen, and in Aberdeen we just have a plethora of castles, essentially, just loads of National Trust properties. So we used to just go there almost like every weekend. So I was definitely always interested in the kind of historic house side of things. And we also had a brilliant art gallery up in Aberdeen as well. So a little bit of both from my upbringing, yeah.
Oh, that's great. And it's great that you've managed to sort of follow that through into your adult life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so can you tell me a little bit about what do the galleries at Leeds University, what does that contain?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really glad that you asked us on here because I think a lot of people know about our art gallery, which is called the Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery, but we've actually got two galleries on site. They're both in the Parkinson building, and the second one's called the Treasures of the Brotherton Gallery, and it is still, I'm going to say it's still the new kid on the block. It only opened in 2016, right. Compared to the art gallery, which opened, we've had an art gallery on site since 1970, so that's been around for a while. And yeah, we just basically got a great offer in one place. We've got something for everyone. So in the Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery, we've got everything from 17th century art to modern day art, and we run kind of a program of temporary exhibitions. And then across in the Treasures Gallery, that's where we display objects from our special collections. It's not just me thinking that it's a special collection. It's a term that we use for kind of our rare books, manuscripts, archives, and kind of museum objects. And in there, we really kind of cover everything. So we've got everything from material written by the Brontes. We've got medieval manuscripts. We've got historic cookery books, stuff relating to politics, all sorts of stuff in there as well. And we also have a temporary exhibition that we change yearly in that gallery as well. So we've got lots really.
And what's the most special thing in a special collection for you?
Oh, it's a really tricky one. And I think it probably changes quite a lot. I think one of my favourites that we've got on display at the moment, it's called the Jacobean Travelling Library.
Okay.
Beautiful 17th century object. So it looks like a big book, a big folio on the outside. And then when you open it up, it contains 43 miniature books. So it's like a little library you can carry around with you. It's beautiful, and there's only one of only 4 examples in the world, so it's very rare, and it's just I always call it our 17th century Kindle because I think it's just before its times. It's brilliant.
Yeah, what a great idea! So you can travel around with your books. I imagine you'd have to be quite rich to own something like that.
Yeah, definitely. For when it was commissioned back in the 17th century, it would have definitely been for a more wealthy person.
And how over time have there been things that have sort of been discovered in the collections or kind of like rediscovered?
I think with all collections, we've got a lot more stuff than we can normally kind of show, and so yeah, things do keep being discovered. We had a while ago, we found out we had the PhD thesis of a woman called Florence Bell, who was the one of the people who kind of discovered the structure of DNA, really
Wow.
early kind of structure, and just amazing woman in science. And we thought we had the PhD thesis, but we weren't sure, and we kind of rediscovered that. So that was amazing to find, and yeah, we're always kind of finding bits and bobs that are interesting, really.
And I suppose as well, like you said with the Florence Bell work, that might have been something that perhaps when it was first collected wasn't seen as something that was important. That's kind of gained importance over time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more, obviously, because we're a university organisation, research is really important to us. So we always have a number of kind of research projects going on at any time. So the more you kind of research your collections, the more interest comes out, really.
Yeah, definitely. And so obviously your job is to engage the public and, advertise all of the great things that you've got going on.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's sort of changed over time because, I mean, for a long time, museums and things, even though they were sort of accessible to the public, they could kind of be seen as sort of stuffy institutions where you were kind of just looking at things behind, glass boxes. Whereas, nowadays, there is much more interaction, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think things going online has just been revolutionary for museums, and being able to kind of share your collections to a much wider audience than just the people who can make it to Leeds is incredible.
And do you think that the terrible, terrible time we all suffered and are still sort of not completely over yet, do you think the whole, COVID, when everybody was at home and lots of places were closed, do you think that sort of helped develop that on?
I do, yeah. I think. Well, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this. I've kind of always banged on about digital audiences still being audiences and digital engagement still being engagement. And then suddenly, when COVID happened, a lot of people within my team were very interested in digital engagement. So it was a little bit vindicating, and it meant that we could expand our digital offer a lot more. So we started doing a lot more online exhibitions. We developed a video series called 2 Minute Treasure. We just tried lots of things, and some things we're going to keep doing, and some things we're not. But yeah, it really kind of helped us kind of figure out that who our digital audiences are and what sort of things they enjoy.
And we were able to sort of see in your statistics and things that your reach was getting larger and, like you say, not just people from Leeds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely at the start of the lockdown, the first lockdown, there was a brilliant initiative started by York Museums Trust called Curator Battle.
Oh, excellent.
And it was fab. It's on Twitter, and basically each week they just kind of put out a challenge, like it'd be like most, mysterious object or, ugliest object, that sort of thing. And then all sorts of museums across the country and across the world would get involved. And I think we saw on Twitter, because of Curator Battle and all the other content we were putting out, we just saw an uplift of kind of like 400% engagement. It was absolutely wild. And obviously it's evened out now, but it got our collections and our cool stuff in front of a lot more people.
I think I remember seeing a bit of that Twitter battle because I think I remember seeing there was one where I think it was the Museum of Yorkshire Agriculture. That might have been the ugliest animal, but that was hilarious following that.
Yeah, and it hit the news like worldwide as well. So it was featured on all sorts of kind of newspapers and in television programs. I think it was even I'm sure it was a question in either like University Challenge or something like that as well. So yeah.
And so so both of your galleries are open to the public,
Yeah,
and free to enter,
exactly.
which
Yeah,
is fantastic. Especially everyone's been pinched, and it's great to be able to just go and get some culture for free.
absolutely.
And so, can you tell me some of the kind of things that you put on? Because you have workshops, don't you, at the Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're finally returning to kind of in-person events, which is lovely. we just because we were part of the university, it took us a little longer to kind of open up. So we've actually only been fully back open since January, and we're just getting started again. So we've just kicked off again our weekly activities. So we hold a session called Sketch Club every Friday, and the idea is that we'll provide materials and a bit of a focus, and you can essentially just come to the galleries and sit and draw for 10 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, however long you like on a Friday afternoon. And then on a Wednesday, we also hold a drop-in activity called Pen to Paper. And that is a creative writing version of Sketch Club. So again, come sit in the gallery in a nice calm space, get your kind of creative juices flowing, and give your hand a little bit of creative writing. And we've got different prompts and techniques that you can try as well. So I'm really excited that they're back up and running. They used to be a real staple of our offer. So those happen weekly, and then alongside that, we've got a program of activities, all related normally to our temporary exhibitions. So we do creative workshops working with artists so people can come and make their own artworks. We do curator talks, and we're trying to do a bit of hybrid. So some of those will be online, some of those will be in person, and just all sorts of stuff. There's always something to do, I'd say.
Oh, definitely. I've been to a few of your workshops in the past. I came to one where it was make your own hat.
Oh, yeah.
That was brilliant. I've still got that hat somewhere. I went to like a ceramics one where there was a really great guy and he was making little tiles.
Yes.
That was fantastic. And I dragged he was a teenager at the time, dragged my son along. And he was quite reluctant, but he actually really enjoyed it when he got there and got his hands dirty and stuff. Yeah, it was brilliant.
That's brilliant.
And so, talking of digital content, you were telling me about your TikTok account.
Oh, yeah, of course. I think, like literally everyone else during the pandemic, we downloaded TikTok and got probably too obsessed with it. The TikTok rabbit hole is very much a real thing, and we got lost down it. But it made a lot of sense for us. We had the time to kind of play with this new platform, and obviously we're a university museum, so one of our key audiences is students. And if you look at like the demographics of people who are on TikTok, that kind of 16 to 24-year-old audience is the kind of main audience on TikTok. So it made a lot of sense for us to kind of to give it a go. I will absolutely admit that when we first downloaded and started posting on it, I didn't tell anyone else in our team for a good 3 months until we kind of had figured out what we were doing. And we just have a lot of fun on there. I think we really try and use that platform as a way of making things feel more relevant and funny as well, and shining a light on our collections in a way that you wouldn't necessarily do in an exhibition, but might make it more relatable to different audiences. And we've done quite well. We had one video which I'd say went kind of semi-viral. It's had, I think, almost 250,000 views.
Wow,
It's and that was all about kind of what it's like working in museums. And we've kind of just built a really nice kind of following over there of people who are kind of interested in what we're doing and have a little bit of fun, and also developed our lip syncing talents is what we've mostly been doing.
It must take quite a lot of thinking up, thinking of your posts and stuff, because you just can't get away with posting any old thing on TikTok, can you?
No, and it's so much trend based as well. You have to be quite reactive, and unfortunately, I have to spend quite a lot of time on it, which I have to spend probably less time than I do on it. But spend a lot of time understanding the humor, understanding the trends, different audios that you can kind of jump on as well.
Yeah, and a lot of fun as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you have an exhibition that I was worried that I'd missed, but you've told me that I haven't because it's on until November. And it's such a fascinating story. So if anybody hasn't heard of it, you need to listen now. So Laura, can you tell me about the Cottingley Fairies?
Absolutely, yeah. So this exhibition is called Cottingley Fairies, A Study in Deception, and it's one of my favourites that we've kind of ever done. It's in the Treasures of the Brotherton Gallery, and for those who don't know, it's basically one of the greatest hoaxes of the 20th century. So basically 2 young girls from Yorkshire, from a place called Cottingley, which is near Bradford, would go and play by the beck, and would keep coming back with their feet wet. There were two cousins called Elsie and Frances, and their mothers were like, why do you keep playing in the beck? Why are your feet wet? And one of them said, oh, we go to see the fairies. And the family was like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever you say. But they're like, no, if we borrow our father's camera, will get you proof. And this was really early days. This was kind of early 1900s, so really early days of kind of use of cameras. It was amazing that he had a camera. And they toddled off and they went and took pictures of fairies, the first kind of photos that they ever took. And these kind of remained quite just an interesting family anecdote, until the mothers of the two children were at a lecture, basically a spiritualist lecture, with a man called Edward Gardner, and they mentioned the photographs to him, and he was actually friends with Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote obviously all the Sherlock Holmes novels, but he was also at that point really getting into kind of spiritualism and really wanted to believe in that there was something more to our world. So he got these photos of the girls with the fairies down by the beck, and he published them to the world in 1920 in the Strand magazine, and basically that started what would become kind of a very early example of fake news. He really believed that these photographs were real and that the fairies were real. And then, unfortunately, this is a bit of a spoiler, but it has been out for a while. But the fairies weren't real. They were little drawings that the girls had put on the back of hat pins and stuck into the ground and taken photos of. But they didn't tell anyone. They didn't tell anyone until the 1960s.
I know, that's crazy, isn't it?
For gosh, however long, people just weren't sure. People believed that these fairies could be real. There was so much debate in the world about these. There was a film made, all sorts of things. So it's an amazing story. And what we've got on display, we've got a lot of the archives around Arthur Conan Doyle writing to the girls and writing to Edward Gardner. We've also borrowed some cameras from the National Media Museum. So we've actually got the camera that Arthur Conan Doyle gave to the girls, which was a little bit cheeky of him, because he was like, "No, you don't need to take more photos of fairies, but here's a camera."
But if you do, take it away.
So they did end up taking a second round of photos because they kind of felt they were, I think, by that point a little bit panicked that such a great man had kind of fully gone for it, that they kind of couldn't really go back on what they were saying. So we've got those cameras as well. Got some of the really early negatives of the photos, and it's just diving into the story is just a lovely way of discovering fairies, I think. And also one of my favorite things is one of the girls, I think it was Elsie, I always get it wrong though, she said that although some of the photos of the fairies were not real, that they did see fairies. And there was one photo that she said that those were the real fairies. And she said that until the day she died. So I kind of like that you can kind of still make up your mind about whether fairies are real or not.
That's the perfect kind of story though, isn't it? Where there is no definitive end.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's just such a fascinating story because you can just imagine, I mean, whether or not they saw the real fairies, I think they probably did. But then, and then to have set that little trick up for their family, and then to have it just snowballed out of control,
Yeah, worldwide famous for it, which I just think would have been very overwhelming.
Exactly, and I think for Arthur Conan Doyle, I mean, I imagine he died before they came out, and he will have.
Yeah, and they actually waited until he died because I think there was a little bit of feeling of guilt that they'd kind of hoodwinked a man who was famous for his shrewd detective.
I know.
So they definitely did wait until he'd passed to just to come out with their confession.
Yeah, what a great story. So I'm definitely going to be coming along to have a look at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any knowledge about, I'm sure you do, about how the gallery started in the first place? So, because you said they've been there, especially, the newest one is the Treasures of the Brotherton Gallery, but like the names that are involved as well, Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've had a long history of collecting at the university. So I think the first artwork was collected in 1885 or something like that. But when the university was still not actually the university, I think it was still the college. So yeah, we've been collecting for a long time. The art gallery has had a presence on campus since 1970, and has always kind of collected widely. We had a great VC called Michael Sadler who really pushed on collecting in terms of art, and he was really good at kind of collecting 20th century British artists. So we're really strong in groups like the Bloomsbury Group, and those sorts of artists as well, and expressionism, which we've actually got an exhibition on at the moment. And we also have had a lot of amazing people who have donated to us. So as you say, the gallery is called the Stanley and Audrey Burton Gallery. And that is because the Burtons gave a lot of their collections over the years. Stanley Burton was involved in the university in various ways. And then after Stanley had died, Audrey wanted to kind of give some more money to the art collection and to the art gallery, and basically funded a huge refurbishment that took place in 2008, and that's when the art gallery became the Stanley Audrey Burton Gallery in honour of their donations. And we still have a load of collections that they gave us up on display. So we've got amazing artwork by Stanley Spencer, and all sorts of other ones as well. So that is why the art gallery is called that. And then our Treasures of Brotherton. So again, it's kind of a history of philanthropy from Lord Brotherton, Edward Brotherton, who we're actually celebrating this year is 100 years since the start of the Brotherton collection. And the Brotherton collection is really the foundation of our special collections, which is obviously what we show in the Treasures Gallery. And Lord Brotherton had a huge history of kind of generosity. He was the mayor of Leeds and Wakefield, and lots of ties to the county. And I love his story of how he started collecting. He went to an auction to buy a medieval manuscript which is related to Wakefield, but he was also kind of a shrewd businessman, and he had kind of an upper limit, and he lost out at this auction. To an American, I believe. So his niece-in-law Dorothy Ratcliffe to kind of commiserate with him, was like, I'll take you to another auction house and I'll buy you whatever you want. And he got a 17th century collection of poems by Andrew Marvell, who's obviously a Yorkshire poet as well. And then that essentially just started a huge collecting spree. Hundreds of thousands of objects and items were bought. He got all of the 4 Shakespearean folios, all sorts of stuff. Like it was amazing collecting spree. And when he died, he gave this amazing collection to the university, and specifically for the reason of sharing it with people, and he wanted that knowledge to be shared. So the Treasures Gallery in 2016 was just the next step in sharing that collection with the wider world, and he really cemented Leeds as a place to build a collection. So a lot of other people have then started giving us their collections, because we were a place that looked after these things and that kind of shared these things in teaching and research, but also just with the general public as well. So we've got things like Tony Harrison's archive, Simon Armitage archive. So we keep collecting today as well, and keep sharing basically the amazing stories we have. So from both sides of things, from the art and the special collections side of things, we've been very lucky to have very generous donors who just want to share their learning and their collections and their passions with much wider audiences, which I'm more than happy to kind of keep doing.
Yeah, definitely. A great responsibility and a great role.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for anybody who's never been to the Brotherton Library, it's absolutely spectacular, isn't it?
Oh yeah, So we're our gallery's on either side of the Brotherton Library, but you can absolutely just ask it to just have a quick nosy in. Lord Brotherton again financed the Brotherton Library, and one of my favourites, like, I don't know if this is true, but this is the story that I've always heard, is that so it's a round reading room, and there's a round reading room at the British Library in London, and when Lord Brotherton agreed to kind of fund this, he said, as long as it's just a little bit bigger than the reading room in London. And I'm here for that pettiness, and bringing the library up north, I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I love that. Even if that's not true, I'm going to remember that fact forever.
Yeah, I've told a lot of people at this point, so I really do hope it was got a nugget of truth in it.
So, Laura, have you always been in Leeds?
No, so I moved to Leeds actually for this job about 6 years ago, and then before that I lived up in Scotland.
Of course, because you mentioned Aberdeen, but you've lived here for long enough then to answer the 3 questions that I ask every guest.
I'm going to give it a go.
The first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
Oh, so I've got 2 answers because I'm cheating a little bit, but
That's
I think they go hand in hand. So I do think the culture that we have in Leeds, I think the museums and galleries, and obviously I'm biased, but I think we've just got something for everyone. If you like contemporary art, you've got the Tetley. If you're into kind of civic history, the City Museum's fantastic. The Henry Moore Institute does amazing things as well. I think we've got so much just in the city. I think it's amazing in terms of culture. And then my second one is food, because I love eating food, and I just think we've got brilliant places to eat, and you can definitely combine the two. I'm a big fan of a museum trip and then a nice lunch out. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. Very good answers indeed. And if you had to choose something that you think is not so great about the city, what would you go for?
Well, so my initial one was transport, but I heard a few other people say that. But I had a little think, and so I did. I grew up in Aberdeen, which is by the sea, and I'd say I think my only thing with Leeds is not being able to reach the seaside very easily. It's a little bit of a trek away, so I do miss.
Do you know what, Laura?
The
That's exactly mine as well. That's the one that I always go for. It's like, apart from transport,
sea.
it's the only that's the only thing, is that it's just not close enough to the sea. But apart from that, it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For the purpose of this podcast, it is anyway. And if somebody had been a resident of Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Oh, so I had a few for this, but I think the one I wanted to mention is, and a little bit rogue, is actually a form of exercise. But there's a place called Leeds Aerial Arts down in Kirkstall, and it's this amazing centre for learning different sort of kind of aerial activities. There's aerial hoop, sling, silks. I do aerial yoga down there. I just think it's brilliant. It's run by a woman called Lorna, who's just really empowering and really supports kind of women and non-binary people to find exercise that they love. And there's nothing quite like hanging in a hammock and doing something a bit different. So yeah, I'd say Leeds Aerial Arts. If you're looking for something interesting to do, they've got all sorts of things. And my Thursday aerial yoga with Gabby is a highlight of my week every week.
That sounds amazing. I have seen Leeds Aerial Arts on Instagram, and the pictures always look absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's great for it. If you're into Instagram and want to kind of show off a little bit, there's nothing quite like looking like you're Superman to do that.
A really elegant and beautiful Superman.
Yeah.
And Laura, what will you be doing with the rest of your day today?
So the rest of my day, I've got a few more bits of work to do. Just currently planning some more exhibition marketing. We've got an exhibition coming in April, all around how artists look at kind of technology around seeing space and stars and things like that. So I'm currently planning the marketing for that, which is quite exciting. And then I will probably go for a nice walk. I live near Meanwood Park, and it's always good to have a break after work.
Oh, it sounds absolutely perfect. Thank you so very much for coming along to speak to me. I'll put lots of notes in the podcast notes, so that links in the podcast notes, so people can click through and find out how they can come along and see all of your wonderful collections.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Laura Beare. She was a brilliant guest, and I loved hearing all about the galleries at Leeds University Libraries. As usual, there'll be lots of information in the podcast notes that you can click through and organise yourself a visit. Go and do something amazing or see something amazing. Just get involved. The featured track this week is by a band called Canara. Canara have been featured before because their music is just wonderful. And I listened today to Calais Rand on Bandcamp by them, which is their new single. And I just fell in love with it. It's a Punjabi folk song about a woman who has received a gift from her beloved, a black paranda, which is a hair extending ornament plaited into the hair. Who knew? She dances and celebrates, but their love is hidden from society. I think you'll love this episode. And if you want to know more about Canara, their lead singer, Satnam Galsian, was actually my guest on episode 69 of the Corona Bloody Virus episodes. So if you want to go back and listen to Satnam and about her inspiration, please do. Enjoy your week, Leeds. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
What's happening in this great city?